Alright, hello and welcome everyone. So, it's time for a builds refresh, and this build is very, very expensive. But, Hildryn Prime is brand new, and honestly, she kind of deserves it, so let's talk about it. First and foremost, her design. A lot of people, not a fan of the helmet at first, but I gotta say, it's growing on me, and I think that she looks great, actually. I still think that, there's some potential that people will just gravitate towards regular Hildryn helmet, which I think looks totally fine here. And perhaps we'll get some Tenogen in the future for people that aren't, super into any of the current options, because I don't think the deluxe fits super well on this body. But in general, if you don't like the helmet, the regular one seems totally fine and acceptable on here, but I've stuck to the new one. Other stuff. This build is using Roar now instead of Elemental Ward. We used to use Elemental Ward, but there have been a number of different changes, and I think that Roar ends up being a little bit better, specifically because we have Archon shards now, which can patch up certain things, and also because we have the new Archon mod. So, weirdest thing in this build, for sure, is that I'm running Archon Vitality. This is purely for the abilities that deal heat damage. Will be status effects from abilities that deal heat damage will be applied twice. So, getting double heat procs means that you're doing considerably more damage with Blazing Pillage, allowing you to kill tons and tons of enemies at basically double the speed that you normally would be able to. And it is very worth noting that I have a max rank Vitality, or Archon Vitality, and you do not need to run this. This is a 4-forma build as it stands currently here. However, if you simply just use an unranked Archon Vitality, which you can get an extra of from the shop, you don't have to level this up at all. You can very simply remove this, put Adaptation in this slot, and then just throw in the unranked one, and this will save you a whole forma. This build normally comes with, this frame normally comes with 2 D polarities and a dash down here. These polarities are all stock as well, so the only stuff you need to add in order to get to this full build is 2 V polarities, 1 for Transient Fortitude and 1 for Blind Rage. Now, to talk about what we're doing in terms of the rest of the build, Adaptation, excellent for survivability. 90% DR from this is just great and very hard to beat, and you're going to need it for very high-level Steel Path missions. Redirection, more shields. She's the shields frame. This is basically flow plus also still defenses, which is excellent. Blazing Pillage, kind of the whole thing we're centered around here. This makes it so that Hildryn not only works on Infested, but also gives her a way for her abilities to just simply kill enemies just by regularly casting them and doing normal survivability things. And then all of this strength. So, all this strength gets us up to 328% strength with the Archon shards that we are running. The Archon shards that we are running are 3 regular shards for 10% strength each, which are necessary for this build to do the thing it's aiming to do, which is fully strip armor. The other 2 shards are duration, and the duration is important because this build, in order to run Archon Vitality, drops Prime Continuity, giving us usually 73% duration, but 93 is considerably more comfortable, specifically so that Roar lasts a decent duration at 27 seconds. Also worth noting, you do not have to run Stretch. You could opt to run Prime Continuity instead of Stretch here if you wanted to, but I think Stretch for more range, especially on Haven, is going to be more beneficial, especially in larger tiles. Overall, the whole thing this build does is because we're at 328% strength, that gives us on our Pillage an 82% drain. 82 plus the 18 we get from Crow's Projection means that all armor is eliminated the moment that we cast our Pillage once, which is incredibly efficient for taking down enemies. Crow's Projection, there's no real replacement. We are running Molt Augmented. This is effectively 60% strength once you've killed 250 enemies, which would get us to 388%. So theoretically, you could have 1 Tau Shard and drop another duration, and then you could get to 400% strength straight up after Molt Augmented, and you could remove Crow's Projection, but that's kind of just a waste, and I really wouldn't advise you do that. Overall, the build is basically just an improved version of the old one, where we're using Roar to double dip on Blazing Pillage, because what occurs with Roar's interaction, which is at a 98% damage increase, and that's before the Molt Augmented, which we still run for more damage, both from Blazing Pillage, from Roar, and just everything we do is affected by strength. So the extra strength is just great. Also, Aegis is another survivability where this will basically just let us recharge insane amounts of shields after getting procced, and will basically be totally invincible for 12 seconds. Firm Sure-Footed, also to note, survivability. Just don't get knocked down and be able to do the things that you want to get done. But yeah, anyway, the interaction here that we're going for is Roar plus the Haven plus Pillage. So not only is this going to double our damage just straight out from Haven, but Blazing Pillage, whenever this is applied, it will do the damage of Blazing Pillage, which is 656 damage. It will double, or increase by 98%, double, that damage, which will then create 2 heat procs. Those 2 heat procs will then be affected by Roar again, so that we are getting exponentially more damage than we would previously, and we're just not getting like the electric stuff that we would be getting from the Elemental Ward version of this build, which is still quite good, and you could just take this build straight up. But Elemental Ward has significantly less duration than Roar, and I find it to be worse mostly for those reasons, because going down to 93% duration is not very comfortable. Worth noting, if you, for whatever reason, have a bunch of red Tau shards and you love Hildryn, the maximum investment for this build, because you do not need any more strength, is to have 2 strength Tau shards and 3 duration Tau shards. What that ends up with is the same amount of strength as we have here, because, you know, it's 50% better, therefore just 1 less shard of that type. And we instead get an additional 15% duration here, and then 5% on each of these, which is 25% more duration, giving us a very, very comfortable amount of duration to stick with, giving us like 35-ish seconds, I believe, maybe 37, 38 or something like that. But yeah, very comfortable for Roar at that point, where you're not going to have any trouble maintaining it at all. Also worth noting, if the duration is like you don't feel that it's necessary, or maybe if you want to do like, you know, the full Tau of 2 duration and 2 strength, and then you could go 1 parkour speed to make Hildryn considerably faster, that is also a good option. There's lots of, you know, ways you can kind of tweak this to your, you know, preferred taste, but 328% strength, however you get there, is definitely going to be what I would suggest to you. But yeah, overall, it's a fairly simple build. There's not anything too crazy here outside of just like, you know, cool interactions with the abilities that we've got on here. I am going to switch it back to the version here, just because the extra health theoretically is better, and you know, there's not really anything else to do but have the mod be leveled if you've invested the forma already. The reason that I even went this far and invested the Umbral forma is just so I could try multiple variations of this build, but this is the one that I ended up on being the best. Just to show what this is capable of, oh, also, before I forget, Balefire Charger Prime. So there are no statistical changes to the Balefire Charger, but it is the Balefire Charger. If you're using this with Roar and armor stripping entirely in one cast, it can get things done. I have replaced her 4, which some people might opt to keep, but I would advise against that going into Duviri. And the reason for that is because going into Duviri, if you were to, say, roll Hildryn and get to use this Hildryn build, and then you get really shitty weapons, Balefire Charger is a definitely above average weapon at the absolute least, and with this much strength and the other benefits of Hildryn, it's actually going to be quite strong. I gravitate towards this build. There are a few different things that you can change on this. I could add another Forma and put Prime Fulmination in instead of Scorch, which is going to give me much more AoE. Anemic Agility is optional, but the fire rate I find to be really nice. And yeah, it's a non-crit weapon, so mostly it's just going to be different combinations of that. Like you could add Magnum Force if you wanted to. And you could also, of course, always go with a Bane if you know what you're going to be fighting. That's, of course, going to be very helpful, and is definitely best in slot over like something like Scorch, just in terms of your total damage that you're going to be doing. But again, most people don't like to swap out their Banes and stuff, as it's usually just entirely unnecessary. And it's really entirely unnecessary because, as we're going to show with these 20 Corrupted Heavy Gunners, level 190, they just don't live. So our basic plan that we do is you turn on Haven, and then you will Roar, and then you're going to use your 2. One of these got stripped by my cat, but not to worry. Yeah, this will put heat procs on the enemies, which will then kill them. They will have no armor to defend themselves. Some enemies will have shields for, you know, a small amount of time, because the heat procs will quickly make short work of those. And yeah, you can just burn it all to the ground, as it were. If that, for whatever reason, is not working for you, you can use whatever weapons you have at your disposal, or the Balefire Charger, which is similarly effective, and don't forget, can be charged up for a considerably larger AoE. Just be sure to use dark energy colors, as otherwise it can be a bit of a pain to look at. But yeah, nice 100,000 there. That was actually without Roar as well, as I forgot to reapply it. But yeah, that's what's up with Hildryn. Enjoy the Steel Path run. It will be very easy. And hope you guys enjoyed the new refresh on this. Let me know what you think of Hildryn's Prime design. I think it's a significant upgrade from her regular design and also her deluxe, honestly. Very happy with it overall. Also, if anyone is wondering what stance I am using, as it is brand new, this is the Rhino Deluxe stance. This is the Death Watch. So, yeah, if you were wondering what any of this stuff is, as people usually do with the new primes, Small Silver Armor, the Vitala Armor, Hypatia Ephemera is what I'm using. And then Hildryn Prime has a unique chest plate, which is what is equipped here, but can be removed. Yeah, that's what's going on here. And the Sindana is the her Prime Access one. But yeah, that's what's up. Enjoy the Steel Path run, and I will see you tomorrow for the free-to-play through, which should be probably happening, you know, around... I'm not sure what time, if I'm honest. All right, Steel Path, Uva Fortress. Yeah, this will be very easy. This will be non-problematic. It will be unlikely that I'll really need to use my weapons much. The only thing to really be wary of as compared to the last build we did is that Roar is a little costly. So you'll want to make sure you're like keeping up on your cost for that, which is, you know, not really hard at all. Yeah, you can see this, the damage that is being done to these enemies is... yeah. Especially whenever we have, like, our cat also enhancing our damage with viral procs. It is really... We could, of course, be firing a gun, but, like, we don't need to be. Yeah, most enemies will die from 1 or 2 casts of this, at least for a good long time, and then eventually you'll need to start hitting other buttons. But realistically, any enemy that you're doing this to is not going to enjoy it. Like, they're going to have a bad time, pretty explicitly. And because your 2 regenerates the shields after you spend them, you know, it's a tough time out here for the enemies. It's tough out here. Oh yeah, Xmas are one of the few things you might need to shoot at a little. Only a little, though. Just make sure you get rid of that overguard, and then, you know, just mess around with them a little bit. Do some Parazon finishers for jokes. It is worth noting that your 2 is line of sight, so you will have to, like, you know, kind of like, you know, go to the center of enemies in an area most of the time. But really not a big deal. Yeah, most of the time, really, one cast is like... I mean, if you're playing this build at any regular level, it's actually pretty worth noting. You actually shouldn't be activating Roar at lower levels. Also, at really low levels, you'll end up running into a problem where enemies actually won't live long enough to give you shields. You won't, like, get anything off of your 2 because they'll die by interacting with just your 3. So you actually should probably lower the power strength if you're going into... really low-level missions to leave enemies with a little bit of armor so that they can actually, you know, give you shields, which is kind of a hilarious... It really speaks to the strength of this build that, like, you have to lower its power for low-level content, otherwise it causes problems with being too strong. But yeah, if you're doing this in like really low level missions, although if the mission is not long and your 3's killing all the enemies, you could just walk through it. We got the Kubatankor here, just, you know, whenever enemies have no armor, the Kubatankor really makes short work of them. Really short work of them, which is nice. Tankor also, notably, is one of the Kuba weapons that does not have ammo problems, as it did not get nerfed whenever the nerfs came out. So this will just like evaporate hallways and acolytes and mostly once you remove all defenses from your enemies and double your damage, it's like the inverse of them having armor, really. They go from taking 99% less damage to taking 99% more damage. And it turns out they don't like it. They're not fans. They hate it, actually. Here's Torment. Torment's armorless now. Armorless behavior. Torment's a puddle. Where'd you at? There you are. Goodbye. Yeah, for something like survival, like what this is, you will want to, you know, amp it up a little bit in terms of your aggression, which is why I did start firing. In a squad, though, the squad will mostly, you know, if you have any kind of an aggressive teammate whatsoever, you're mostly going to be just, like, removing all defenses from any important target and allowing them to just instantly kill them. If you have, like, a Saren in your party that would normally, like, progress a little, like, slower, this will make them progress to the point where they kill enemies pretty much instantaneously, and them spreading their spores will just evaporate the whole map. There are tons and tons of synergies here. Also, just by being with your 3 on, and just by being in the mission, any ally near you will have a really long shield gate, which is actually incredibly helpful. Really helpful for a lot of Warframes to just, like, very easily survive in those cases, such as Zaku, who can occasionally have some troubles here and there. Zaku, of course, a very good frame, who actually has a somewhat similar playstyle. This can actually help them go beyond their reach, because they'll usually set up in a certain area. You can give them a little bit of reach outside of that if you're covering another zone with your armor stripping. Also, Hildryn's armor stripping is more effective in a weird way against acolytes, as acolytes will sometimes take multiple casts, and Zaku has a difficult time stripping their armor completely for whatever reason. I'll make sure, for anyone that wants it, because I know I haven't done a builds video on it, if anybody wants the Kubatankor build, I'll put it at the end of the video just so you can take a peek at that. It's pretty stock standard, though. You can see on just like the chump enemies, even if I don't strip their armor, it'll kill them. And you saw that it did, well, once the armor was stripped at least, it did very good damage against the Acolyte as well. Really, really low enemy spawns for whatever reason, it seems. I would prefer to have about 10 times the amount of enemies that I'm getting here. And this is the Steel Path, just whatever reason. Oh, here they are. Here's everybody. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you. Please spawn more. If we could just spawn, like, 10 to 20 times this many guys, I would really appreciate it. It'd be nice. And you can see, like, these guys still just burn down. I'm just firing the Tankor to make it a little faster. Because the faster you empty the spawns, the faster you refill them. Xmas, no problem whatsoever. Instantly dead. Clear out this whole area here. Xmas unit, not anymore. I don't even really need to be using Roar whenever I'm firing the gun. But Roar is, you know, it's of course double damage, so it's hard to turn down. And this really goes to show, like, you know, kind of why you don't need Elemental Ward, although Elemental Ward is still good, as I said. But really just, like, a pretty good weapon, like Scuba Tonkor. Plus, having all defenses off enemies is good. Who'd have thought? Throw this on here. It spawns really weirdly bad. And then here they are. Enemies just deciding, taking a snow day and then just showing up whenever they feel like it. Whenever I'd really like them just to run at me. Break yourselves upon Hildryn's abs. Just for a laugh, doing pairs on finishers. Hey, and the Acolyte's coming in right on time. Hopefully it's not. Actually, Hildryn doesn't much care. Oh, there's Malice, though. Dodge out of his bubble. And just make short work of him. And with that, we are at 10 minutes. Yeah, nice, really, honestly, very chill time. Kill rate, of course, much improved by being in a squad and just, like, them taking advantage of you removing all defenses. In terms of you surviving, things very simple, really. Just very chill time. You're constantly re-upping your overshields and just, like, having the 90% DR from adaptation. And just the general survivability of constantly re-upping your shield gate and everything else. And yeah, it's doing Hildryn stuff that we were doing in the last builds video, but just on a much more extreme level. Whoops, that's the wrong way. But yeah, Hildryn, just... I mean, what more is there to say, really? Just really strong. Give me... Is my extraction this way? Pretty sure it was telling me it was this way. I think I'm going the wrong way. I have gone the wrong way, apparently. Which way was I supposed to go? Oh, into the base, not up over. Okay. Fair enough.
Critical life support levels. Extraction is your best option.
And we're out. But yeah, Hildryn just super strong, unkillable, full reduction of all enemy defenses, light everyone on fire, burn them to death, see your enemies driven before you, you know, hear the lamentations of their women, so on and so forth. Absolute murder death. Very little will pose a threat to Hildryn, especially if you shoot a gun at them while you have Roar on. This build is also much easier to put together, as having an extra Rhino is much easier than having an extra Chroma, and 2 form are really not a big ask. It just does show off the Tonkor, as I'm sure some people will want to see what this is. Yeah, pretty standard stuff here overall, but this is the build for it if anyone is curious. Anyway, that's going to do it for the video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. And, of course, as usual, thank you very much to all of the new and returning patrons that we have, and especially to the super patrons, $10 plus patrons. So that is Brutus Salazar, Dylan Dworsky, Thrain, Avon, James Harthorne, JC4 Science, Jefferson Clark, Joshua Adams, Lou Zanth, Malik X. Williams, Finty Ginja, Mitchta, Nicholas Gridley, Paradise, Remoxidate, Shan Harding, Zach Zaner, and Zeraphir. Also, of course, thank you to the rest of the patrons, $5 and $2 patrons. And thing that I just wanted to note, we have news on Duviri. That's going to be next month. So this month, I think I want to do 2 different new player free-to-play throughs. One for the Duviri stuff next month, and I think I want to do one this month. So look forward to that happening, and this will probably be on the end of a couple of those videos whenever it does happen. But yeah, I think there's going to be some free-to-play through progress there for people who have been waiting for that, and that's going to lead to a bunch of new guides. So yeah.